Välkomna till vårt frukostseminarium här på ZeroMission. Och välkomna till er som sitter ute och kollar på Zoom. En liten kort presentation från mig och om dagens program. Vi har en kort introduktion av mig först och sen så har vi vår gäst som heter Fred Kihara. Och sen så har vi en liten diskussion med Fred. Och då är det Ash i vårt team som sköter det. Och sen har vi lite tid för frågor från publiken efter det. Om jag börjar i vår ände här på ZeroMission. Det här är vårt lilla mantra. Vi tycker att seriöst klimatarbete handlar om att man ska beräkna sina utsläpp. Att man ska minska dem. Och att man sen i slutändan också ska binda dem. För den här första tjänsten som vi har så använder vi vårt eget beräkningsverktyg som heter Our Impacts. Vi har också ett dedikerat team av 5-6 personer som är superduktiga på att jobba med klimatberäkningar. Our Impacts är en väldigt kraftfull plattform. Digital plattform för att mata in alla data, klimatdata och generera ett klimatbokslut. Det är också en hållbarhetsplattform med det lite bredare formatet som där du inte bara stoppar in klimatdata utan du kan även stoppa in annan information utifrån som annan hållbarhetsinformation. Det viktigaste som man har att göra på sitt företag det är att minska och reducera sina utsläpp. Allting bygger såklart på beräkningarna, men minskningarna över tid är det viktiga. Och härifrån sett så anordnar vi workshops för att analysera allt det här materialet som finns i Our Impacts. Man tar fram grafer, tar fram siffror och presentera på ett tydligt sätt för våra kunder. Analysera det och hitta de bästa sätten för att reducera utsläppen framåt. Och det här kan vi göra då i workshops. Och sen den sista delen då, att binda in koldioxid från atmosfären. Det är därför vi är här idag för att presentera ett av våra projekt. Vi säljer ju kolkrediter här för att företag ska kunna klimatkompensera, ta ansvar för sina utsläpp. Och vi kommer då att presentera ett av de här projekten här nu. Vi spinner vidare på våran lilla modell här. Att sätta ett pris på sina utsläpp. Det är i princip det handlar om när man köper kolkrediter. Om vi tittar på den översta delen, de blå staplarna. Så visar vi hur man på en 10-årsperiod utifrån vetenskapliga mål utifrån Parisavtalet minskar sina utsläpp till hälften på 10 år. Och att samtidigt då de gröna staplarna under visar på själva kostnaden, hur den minskar över tid om man samtidigt har klimatkompenserat. Så första året så är det en ganska hög kostnad och sen så minskar den över tid fram till i det här fallet 2030. Och det här är ju helt tydligt ett incitament för ett företag som släpper ut har sina klimatutsläpp att man vill gärna sänka sina kostnader över tid. Och det gör man genom att minska sina utsläpp så minskar ju också kostnaden för kolkrediterna. Det här tycker vi är det mest seriösa sättet att ta ansvar för sina utsläpp. Att inte vänta liksom tills det är man bara har lite kvar, utan man tar ansvar redan från dag 1 och binder in koldioxid från atmosfären. Vi har ju ett 25-tal olika klimatkompensationsprojekt som vi säljer krediter ifrån. De är kategoriserade i 3 kategorier. Förebygga, minska och binda. Förebygga handlar egentligen om att bevara skog. Minska handlar om att energieffektivisera, och binda är i princip skogsplantering eller återbeskogning, där man alltså binder in koldioxid från atmosfären i skogsprojekt. Vi har de här olika standarderna som vi har våra projekt certifierade i, och merparten av våra projekt, det syns inte riktigt här, men volymmässigt så handlar det mest om Plan Vivo-projekt, det vill säga de här lite blågröna plupparna. Och dagens projekt som vi ska prata om hamnar strax norr om ekvatorn. Det här projektet kallas för Upper Tana Nairobi Water Fund. Och är som sagt Plan Vivo certifierat. 1 miljon ton koldioxid finns in varje år från det här projektet. Det är otroligt mycket. Det är ett stort projekt. Men det häftiga är att det samtidigt är småskaligt. Och det är en ganska typisk sak för Plan Vivo-projekten. Man sätter alltid individen och det lokala samhället i första rummet. Och med den lilla korta introduktionen så skulle jag vilja välkomna fram Fred, som är en av de drivande personerna bakom det här projektet i Nairobi. Han sitter med i styrelsen för den här fonden, The Fund. Vi var nere och vi var 3 stycken här från företaget som var nere i Kenya och besökte det här projektet i maj. Vi tycker att det är ett otroligt spännande projekt med stor klimatnytta, och vi ser fram emot att kunna erbjuda det här. Vi erbjuder det redan till våra kunder. Så, Fred, with that Swedish introduction, I am now asking you to come up, and I will hand over the speakers or the speaking possibility to you.
Yes, technology is set up. I want to say good morning. And I also want to say thank you very much to all of you, and to Plan Vivo, and also to ZeroMission for the invitation. And Plan Vivo, because they helped us grow to develop a project, being a rural community in Kenya, which is the first time we tried. So it took a bit longer, but we got a lot of guidance. I want to request 1 minute. I just point at my 2 colleagues. We have traveled to Sweden for the World Water Week. And for me, 2 times, Mr. Kerong, Bob, who works with companies like you, 2 times. But for Florence Mugi, it's her first time. So we are greatly honored. And I'll speak about what we've done, and also the farmers. But Florence, when she finished school, she actually worked with the farmers as an intern when we were starting the project. So if there's a difficult question, it is for Florence. But I'm honored, and I will just explain to you briefly about the project. It's We're in the tropics, like behind the camera, straight there, that's where we are in Africa in the map. In East Africa, in Kenya, and the second highest mountain is Mount Kenya, and it's there. So we are children of Mount Kenya. That's where we grew up. So I will try to explain, but if you have a question, feel free to ask me and I can explain. But I just want to explain how we are formed, because we are the Upper Tana, Nairobi Water Fund. And a water fund is an approach that brings everybody together, and we put our own money together to do something to our catchment. So we bring everybody who has interest. If you are in the catchment, the farmers, for example, and the people who take care of the forest, you want a healthy environment, you want to feed your children, you want to grow food, you want to grow fruits for your family and to sell. So the project will support you in that cause. If you live further down in the town, you want clean water, even when it is not raining. So you want the rivers to be healthy. So we come together, we do conservation so that we can do that. And then who are we? All the people I mentioned, we form the governance. So it's not like we put some money and we give to another person. We become the governance together. So this is just a small illustration that you elaborated about it. We are a charitable trust, incorporated charitable trust in Kenya. So we have a board of trustees, 10 of them. We request our business leaders to also participate in the trust as volunteers. So it's not like employed, it's volunteers to the governance to make sure that you take care of, and I put the name Mr. Eddie Jeroge because he has been to Stockholm before, because he got elected to the International Standards Organization, ISO. And and I know Sweden is very strong with ISO. So he has been here trying to run and help developing our countries do that. Back home, he volunteers to make sure that his grandchildren will have water. And then we have several boards. We have a board of management, technical people who help that happen. But we have an advisory board that brings the decentralized county governments and communities. People who are elected from communities to represent them in this. And this is mainly the committee that deals also mainly with the benefits and how do we serve our communities and how do we become equitable so that everybody gets a slice of the benefit. And now we have an executive director to oversee this. This is after Ash visited. We had just hired a new executive director. And then you are out with Mr. Anthony Kariuki, the conservation manager, Dina in the office in Mama, and George and Faith monitoring the rivers to see the impact. So we are a team, we have staff, but with us now is the community we work with. If you allow me, I'll point out, we harvest rainwater when it's raining, because that way we can improve the survival of the trees. When it's not raining, you can get some water on the trees. And then some of the water will improve our farming so that farmers can get better off. And I will follow it on. And the reason why we do this is also because it's the right thing to do. We're doing this because we want to conserve our area, like I said, Mount Kenya National Park, Upper Tana National Park. We have some of the Africa's very iconic wildlife that, Maria, if you come back next time, you'll be able to see a bit of this. Please give it some time. We have actually some endemic rhino, black rhino in the forest and other indigenous endemic species there. But we promote agroforestry, which is growing trees with the crops, because farmers have small pieces of land. And that's where we grow most of our trees. So agroforestry is the technology we use. We put in indigenous trees, naturalized agroforestry trees, like some of the ones in your photograph, and also fruits and fodder. This is also a tree that you can cut the leaves and you give to your livestock when it is dry. So that's how we manage, and it's everybody's business. We cut across the region, we cut across like people and their life. We think of this. This is bamboo. We're planting near the rivers, so that we can protect there being conservation, soil erosion there, and so that we can continue. I could continue on telling you how we grow the trees, but I'll give you a few numbers, and then you can ask me if you have any questions. But like Henrik, you said, we have been growing in enrolling more and more farmers. The demand is a lot. We could do more, but we have been enrolling them, so we have invested a lot to make it happen. And now we are beginning, we began to sell the carbon. So we're in that situation when you have invested to build a hotel and you're hosting the first customer in the hotel. So you've already made the investment. That's the situation we are in. 189,000 farmers, including schools, colleges in the catchment. We make sure that they're there. How do we reach them? When they are few, you can visit. But we have over 100,000. So we use mobile phone to do SMS, and we send them 3 messages every week. That's how we educate them. How do you do better? It's raining. Please get some grass to grow, and then plant trees. When the trees are mature, you can remove the grass. This education, we continue doing that. You can see we have almost 300,000 acres of land that we have already done the conservation. This is already done. We have 3.8 million trees. And this is the main way in which we get carbon out of the environment. Is we grow these trees, and as they grow, then we use the Plan Vivo formulas to determine how much carbon we are getting from the environment. And we've grown 1 million fruit trees. So when you come to Kenya, there'll be a bit more fruits. The fruits are not mature. But just the value, we value the fruits, it's like $50 million every year. Whether it's food or they sell, but it's like big volume. So an additional benefit on top of getting carbon is also converting carbon into food. So that's what we do. And some of them are avocados, and some of the fruits I've seen here. So good. And we harvest, like I said, rainwater harvesting. We have over 15,000 farmers practicing this. When it rains, they harvest the water. When it is dry, they use the water to irrigate. If they don't harvest, they have to go to the river, use a pump to pump water up to irrigate the crop. So we save, it's twice. You save having to lose the water, and you save on energy to get the pumping there. And we try to do also communal dams. We've done 3, we could do more because they impact a lot of people. This one's 4,000 people just get water from the 3 communal dams because they are communal and they can keep water throughout the year. The results are many. I can't go through all of them, but you see more than 300 kilometers of rivers that we have been able to put indigenous trees and grass so that there's no soil erosion along the river. 600 kilometers of terracing that we've done, another 1,000 of grass strips. So you can see we continue with the work to make sure that we can get all the 189,000 farmers done. We also work with schools, mainly high school, because after high school, the Nairobis children, they become adult and they make decisions about the farm. So we want to make sure that we train them on conservation. And you can see Plan Vivo has certified 1.3 million tons, but they keep 20% as buffer. So we're going to have about 1 million trees here, right? 1 million tons because the rest is buffer. We're improving on the quality of our water. We're being energy efficient with biogas and also with drip irrigation to make sure that we use less water. I will just point out that some of the coffee you get here, the specialty Arabica coffee is from our farmers. Mm-hmm. So 8,500 farmers came together. They all used the Rainforest Alliance standard to make sure that they do proper land management in their farms until they are qualified. So that's part of what we do because we want to encourage them to get better. In terms of business, just to talk a little bit more about how do we track the results, how do we tell whether we are getting there or not. We look at the sources of water for the city of Nairobi. Where Nairobi gets its water, and with that watershed, we are able to track how much the water coming to the treatment plant how much sediments do they have? Are we cutting down on the sediment? We use the chemical for treating water, for treating coagulant, aram, to make sure that we can track that. And we have seen, you can see from the trend that before, when we were starting up to around 2015, 2016, there was still a lot of spikes when we had to use a lot of chemicals, but now we have prolonged periods that we use much less chemical because the water is clean. That's our good proxy to tell how much impact are we saving money for people in the city. 4 million people in the city of Nairobi. But we have 5 million people who live out here in the watershed who drink water direct from the river. There's no treatment in the rural area. So if the water is clean, it's good for the city, but it's even better for the people who drink it direct from the river. So that's why we try to see that, are we making impact? And you can see the trend of chemical use is going down. And we have a team that goes out to track in the rivers and monitor, and now we have tried to automate to make sure that we could get there faster. I'll spend maybe the last 1 or 2 minutes just to talk a little bit about this. And this is, Hayden, you are able to explain this. We have a carbon project that's now certified. We've gone through all the steps. We have an agreement with each and every of the farmers. And they kind of, like, they own the waterfront, does nothing else. It only serves those farmers. So it doesn't like do other things outside, it's only for those farmers. We've done education, we've done conservation, we've invested in materials. We've done rainwater harvesting. We promote also things like organic farming and regenerative agriculture so that the farmers can produce food with less inputs. And also now we are monitoring and we continuously training our farmers. And the project is validated by Plan Vivo. And then we have a team. We've grown our own staff team. This is the team that took Maria out to the field to see the project. Because it's very expensive. In Africa, to depend on consultants, many of them have to come from Europe to develop the project. It's very expensive. So it took a bit longer, but we trained our own staff to do it. And now we have trained, the board has selected a board committee for managing the assets and for discussing with people like you, of course, and when we need to. So His Excellency, the Governor in the watershed, volunteers his time to be the board. And he gives us the voluntary support. And Madam Director in the Ministry of Environment also is a co-chair in that committee. So again, we need to work with our government so that we are also properly guided. And that we see that in the way they make policies, they don't hurt us. I think it's Indonesia, where the government decided they're not going to trade carbon, which is not fair for communities. Sorry, I think it's fair, but it's not fair in our country. And then we have a lawyer, and Elizabeth is, I know Elizabeth Wadote is actually a climate advocate and an activist, and she goes around just like Greta to try and tell people about climate. And she grew up like me in the watershed, and she volunteers her time again to tell people about why we need to do something. So the guy at the bottom there is, I'll show you another day. But we are together to make sure that we can support our farmers, and I'm happy to, very, very happy to be here, and I can answer any question if there's any. I want to say thank you very much. We say asante sana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fred. And now we have Ash, and Ash is going to talk a little bit together with you. Since we visited the project, I think we have great insights, and we just love this project. And I give the word to Ash.
Well, thanks, Sam, and thank you very much, Fred, for such a nice presentation. So my name is Ash Farber. I'm the sourcing manager at ZeroMission. I've been here for about 2.5 years. And as Fred said, I was one of the lucky team members that got to go and visit the project in Upper Tana. So great to hear about the stories there. I was just wondering if you could expand on how farmers are kind of paid. So normally with Plan Vivo, farmers each get a kind of performance-related pay. So how much carbon your land sequesters is how much money you get paid. But with the Water Trust, it's a little bit different. So could you explain the kind of milestone system that you have, and then what the farmers get in return?
Okay, thank you, Ash. And I already explained we have 189,000 farmers. There are more farmers who would want to join the scheme. But we have to go with the resources we have because it's very intensive. So when a farmer joins the scheme, the first thing we do is make sure they get the right training. Then we send an extension officer to their farm to guide them on how to improve on the farming system and make a plan for their farm. So that's initial investment. The second thing we look at is this, a lot of this work is labor. So how do we make sure there's enough labor to do the terracing, the grass strips and so on, dig holes, plant trees? How do we make sure we have good quality materials? So the way we actually work with the farmers is and I'm aware of where you can tell the farmer do it and you give cash. Then the numbers, when they get to the level of numbers we have, then you have some have not done, others have done, and you're trying to see what you can do. So what we do is to try to make every farmer in the scheme to commit 100% to get the work done. But then the project commits 100% to get them the materials. And then they get them the education. And then should there be need for more anytime because something happened, there was a landslide or something, the project also commits to do that. So the way I would explain to is like we have a lifetime commitment because look, the water fund does not do anything else. It serves the farmers in the water fund, in the watershed in the long term. So it's like we invest as much as they need. Should we have surplus? The surplus money is for them. So it can go to them. It does not go to anybody else because everybody else serving the board is a volunteer. But that's how we do. Because it's right now, it's been very expensive to get the materials for each and every of the farms. So we have stretched way beyond, but that's how we do it. We give them a guarantee that they'll get all the material all the time. And I did not mention that the water fund is like 80 years. We just started, but it is for us, for our children, and for our grandchildren. So you see it's a long-term guarantee. So that's how we use the money. Farmers like it this way because sometimes they need more materials than the money they can be paid. How do they get guaranteed? So that's the water fund guarantees that. I don't know whether that's also.
That's great to know that they get materials. And could you expand a bit more on what difference these materials make? I know that we got to meet Madame Felice, a lady who had the water pond and started growing strawberries. And just seeing the difference that made to her life, and that there's 189,000 of these stories. So could you explain? Do you remember Madame Felice? You know the lady.
No, I remember her, and I remember two sides of her life. Before the water fund, then she wouldn't have like income. She had challenges of food security, and she started by harvesting rainwater. So then she had some water in her farm. Then she can do conservation and grow trees. I didn't mention, but the grass we grow, particularly when we grow Napier grass, we also cut the grass and we can keep a cow. So it's an important source of protein, in particular for the family. So when you have a cow and you can be able to feed it throughout the year. So for her now, she had water, that her trees were growing. Once they established, they don't need to be watered. And then now she strawberry, which I think is a crop also grown here. It's grown mainly for very good income in my country because the demand is very high. So she's doing that for income, and many farmers are doing that because beyond food security, the farmer wants to take their children to school. And I know Florence is here. And Florence, you didn't hear this, but many families take the son to school, but they don't take the daughters to school if they don't have enough money. So having just enough money means you can take the sons to college and you can take daughters also to college. It happens because people assume the daughter will get married and go away. but so if you have enough income, then you can educate both your children and they go to university. And some of our families are big. So this is why income is important. This is beyond the planet. And then being able to harvest your own water means you perpetually will always have water. You can have income, you can have food, and now you can have educated people in your family. Yeah, that's why for Felice, I could talk a little more about her, but that's basically why it's important. If somebody can make income, it makes a big difference.
think it was hard for me before visiting the projects to see what water meant, that I've spent my whole life turning on a tap, and to go there and see people where this isn't the case, and what difference providing water can mean, that it's not something to drink, it's a business. It's a way to send your children to university. So it's really impressive. And from the local scale stuff to the bigger picture, you also, that there's the hydroelectric dam that powers Nairobi. Could you explain a bit more about how this project is kind of helping with renewable energy production across the whole country, really?
Yeah, and just because I did not bring a map. But this is the source of the Tana, and it's the largest river in my country. And my country we're struggling to generate enough electricity to power the economy. And having hydropower generation makes a big difference. Today, my country generates about 40%. 40% of all energy is generated from the Tana. This is the same river. So the river has to provide water for 5 million people in the catchment, 4 million people in the city, and generate 40% of the power for the country. So I think that's very important, because it's the way we go into participate in economic development. We need power for industry and so on. The challenge that we had, just like up water for city and for hydropower, is there was a lot of sediments flowing in the river going to the hydropower dam. So, and that was taking up, the sediments were filling up the dam, and we were losing capacity to store water that will generate power through hydropower. So we've been able to cut 17% of the sediments in our rivers. So that directly means you're saving capacity in the dam, which prolongs the life of the dam, which means you can generate power now and generate power in future. So that's the most important thing, is that this system for generating electricity is now having a longer life. We can now continue generating and expanding on the capacity in the Tana for electricity, because then we can use that. So that's what I would say in terms of hydropower. We secure the future power generation, and hydropower is cheaper than using diesel, because diesel is expensive. We don't have diesel, we have to buy. And then the carbon emissions are way too much compared with hydropower. So that's why it makes business sense. Yeah.
And then so I know that, this is the Upper Tana waterfront, and then across Africa, there's how many other waterfronts?
We're now getting to 16 in the African continent.
And then is the plan, from the success that you've had here so far, and you see what's happened in Upper Tana being used as the kind of, the pilot project, the proof for the other 16 that this can be replicated?
Yeah. If you've not visited Africa, you should visit someday. I think we're very rural people. So we live in the farms, we grow our food there, we go to rural schools, and there are people in the town, but there are not many, and basically they're looking for employment, most of them. So just like what is in Nairobi city that we're taking care of with the Upper Tana water fund, it's the same challenge we have near the Lake Victoria, where we have a few urban centers, but the water comes from the catchments, and the catchments have communities living there. So the idea we have is, how can we mobilize, first of all, more cities and more communities to establish their own water funds, and two, to grow trees in the catchments, because in the long term, that is the vegetation you want to see in the catchment, because then the catchment is greener, the soil erosion is reduced, like the benefits of fruits and other things, people can live healthier lives, and then you sequester more carbon, and you can store carbon in the catchments through the trees. So that is what we would like to see there. So Nairobi is the first one that we have done. We have gone through the cycle, established a water fund, and mobilized communities in the catchments, and growing trees. That's the first one, but the others need to do the same. So we are trying to develop a project for each water fund that also targets carbon. So the carbon revenue helps us get the trees growing faster. If we can get revenue from carbon, then we can expand the project and we can grow more trees there. I talked about 3.8 million trees. At least the others should have no less than 1 million every catchment, every waterfall, and then we can expand the scale. I didn't mention this, but we also, just like the leaders I've said here, we're also trying to get other leaders. In Kenya, we've requested Her Excellency, the First Lady, the wife of the president, to become a champion, so that she can help us communicate to the community, because people like her. She's in charge, she preaches to them, they have a good connection. So can she come also and preach a little bit about it? So she has accepted, which is a good thing. Yes.
Thank you. And then I think I've been given a 5-minute warning, maybe a last question. So broadly, what would you say has been your, I mean, you've been with this water fund project since the very beginning and have followed all of these steps. And what's been your biggest challenge along the way and the thing that you're most proud of at this point? It's a big question.
No, there are challenges. There are real challenges. And challenge number one is this is capital intensive things and you have no products for capital, for raising money. You know, all the people who are here, we behave like family. So we are family. If we need to raise some money from ourselves, even to do things like train farmers, because we have mobile phone system, but we still have to pay the cost of communication. And you said one message to 142,000 farmers, doesn't matter how low the price is, but the number is huge. So, and that's the beginning, because you're recruiting farmers. Then you're training farmers. Then we do polling. How do the farmers tell us if they, so we give them incentive, have $1 if you answer all our questions. But then you set them questions about, do you have challenge of erosion in your farm? Are you losing your soil nutrient in the soil and topsoil when it rains? And then that's how you recruit them. Then they have to consent. So all that is initial investment has been a challenge. Our farmers want to do the right thing, but they don't have the education. So you have to educate them, and it costs to roll out. And then once we've rolled out and we have the farmers, then we have promised, because you have to promise the farmer if they do the terrace, you bring the napier grass, you bring the trees. You know, for napier grass, in one season, you know, like the 10-wheeler truck, we distribute 30 of them in one season. So you have to have money, because you cannot take everything on credit. So you have that. So having capital to invest, we could move faster if we were able to design projects faster, and we can get reliable. Like somebody says, "I'll take so much carbon. I'll take so much carbon," because then that's like credit. We can borrow for materials to get that going. So there are many more problems, challenges. So I'll probably save time there. But just what am I most proud about for this project is the fact that it is now fully mature, because these are smallholder farmers, and Plan Vivo had to believe that they do the right thing, because they have seen them do the right thing. We taken commitment to deliver the numbers. We have every farmer is in a database, and every 5 trees they plant, we put in the database, and we count, we validate. So we have built this very credible system that now everybody trusts and believes, and we do believe that's part of what we did now. When we go to replicate to other places, we believe that this database established and replication becomes easier for us. And of course, coming to the market. Just to let you know, and I know you've seen our vintage, we started a little bit earlier. When we were supposed to come to the market, then there was COVID. Then for 2 years, so somebody asked us, like, yeah, but you've taken a bit of time. You said, well, we were ready, but the market was not ready. We could not even go to the office to tell people about it. So we lost some 2 years, but we've overcome that together. Everybody is there now, and we think we can do it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for answering our questions, Fred. It's time to call an end to the online session now for anyone still here with us in person. We can be great to discuss these projects more, and for anyone who's joined online, send us in your questions to my email, to the info@email@ZeroMission, and we're happy to get back to you, or directly converse with Fred to get back to you to answer your questions. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and have a great day. Thank you.